Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Vikings quarterback Carson Wentz is going to undergo season-ending surgery on his non-throwing shoulder, according to our Jonathan Jones. Wentz in obvious pain during Thursday's loss to the Chargers. J.J. McCarthy did not come in and play in that game, hasn't played since suffering a high ankle sprain in Week 2. The Vikings had been hoping he'd be available to return this week against the Lions, and our Jonathan Jones reporting that that still is the hope. If it's not him, it's rookie Max Brosmer. Let's bring in Ryan Wilson here with the very latest on this. Ryan, considering how things have been treated with J.J. McCarthy, who's been back at practice for a couple of weeks, is it still kind of foggy what might happen moving forward for Minnesota?
Well, it certainly sounds like that Kevin O'Connell would like to get J.J. McCarthy back out there. You talk about the injury history, which has followed him over these one and a half seasons he's played in the NFL. 24 games eligible. He's only played in 2 games, 8 quarters. And you could argue that 7 of those quarters haven't been great football. But they need to find out what they have in their 2024 first-round pick. We're seeing Caleb Williams play a lot of football. Jaden Daniels is playing well at a high level. Drake May might be the best quarterback in that class as we sit here now. Bo Nix is playing really well in Denver. And the jury is still out on J.J. McCarthy, primarily because he hasn't played because of these injuries. The knee injury last year robbed him of his rookie season altogether, and now this high ankle sprain. And like I said, I will say this, Kevin O'Connell is incredibly patient. He's spoken on the record about giving young quarterbacks time. But if JJ's not healthy, he's not healthy. And I do know that they like Max Brosmer a lot, the undrafted free agent out of Minnesota, who had played previously at the University of New Hampshire. So they have options, but Chris, they are young options with very little experience, and it's a completely different ball game than, say, Sam Darnold a year ago, who obviously had a ton of experience, just wasn't able to put it together until he arrived in Minnesota. So I don't want to say the Vikings are in a bad way, but they have some answers they need to have at the quarterback position now that Carson Wentz, who had been average at best, but he was sort of holding the thing together until JJ got back, is now on IR and his season appears to be over.
Vikings in the basement in that really good NFC North division at 3-4, looking up at the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, and they've got the Lions coming up this weekend. If indeed it is Brosmer, what is it that they like about him?
So he was undrafted. He was at the Shrine Bowl, and he put a really good season together last year, his first season in Minnesota for the Gophers. He's a tough kid. He's incredibly smart. When you talk to people in that building, they were blown away with how quickly he was able to pick up that offense during training camp in the preseason. He's taken some end-of-game blowout loss snaps this season, which you can't really translate to what that looks like in terms of meaningful football. But I was sort of half joking with you before we came on that this feels like a little bit of a Brock Purdy situation, that the team knows what they have. The rest of the league doesn't know because they haven't seen Max Brosmer play. He's not a big guy. He has a pretty good arm. He's pretty mobile. But a lot of the things we talked about with Brock Purdy coming out, who was undersized and Mr. Irrelevant, and I wouldn't be surprised if Brosmer came in and played pretty well. I don't think that's going to change anything in terms of who the QB1 is because, as I just mentioned, Kevin O'Connell's talked at length about the importance of teams giving quarterbacks opportunities, young quarterbacks especially, and how more times than not, it's the team that fails the quarterback instead of the other way around. And we've seen all around the league, Chris, Baker Mayfield's had success since leaving Cleveland. Sam Darnold, we just talked about, he's still having success in Seattle. Daniel Jones is the poster person for what can happen when you land in the right spot. And I think Kevin O'Connell probably wants to be careful in terms of shutting the book on any quarterback. And like I mentioned, J.J. McCarthy's only played 8 quarters. So they need to get him healthy, and then they need to figure out what they have in him. And I think Max Brosmer, probably best case scenario, is a legitimate backup that you can turn to when your quarterback is injured, your QB1. But I suspect this will be JJ's team for the rest of this season. And I don't know what would have to happen for him not to be the quarterback next season, because all that KOC has talked about leads me to believe that they're not in a rush to move on from their first-round pick from 2024.
Well, if they think that highly of him, they must think that if he gets healthy, that they still have a chance in the playoff race, even though they're in the basement right now in the division. But as it stands right now, they're currently in 12th place in the NFC, and there's just a log jam of teams sitting there at 6-2, 5-2, and the Vikings down there at 3-4 with the Lions coming up. What kind of position is this team in to make a run to the postseason?
Yeah, this ain't where you want to be at the midway point of the season, no doubt about it. And again, last year this time we were having conversations about Sam Darnold as the MVP, which is sort of funny to say, but he played that well. That team played that well. The other thing to keep in mind, Chris, is that the Brian Flores defense hasn't looked quite like the Brian Flores defense we saw a year ago. They've been exposed at times, most recently on Thursday night, where we saw the offensive line, which has also struggled with injuries. We saw Carson Wentz take another beating that led to him landing on an IR. But you compound the issues with the offensive line struggling to stay healthy, and then the defense not playing at the level that it played at a year ago, and you take that all together with a young and or rookie quarterback should Max Brosmer have to play, and this is where you find yourself, and there's very little room for error. When we saw how the Packers played against the Steelers on Sunday night, we know how good the Lions can be, and the Bears are a team pointing up. They struggled over the weekend, but we've seen them play much better football this season than they have in recent seasons past. So there's no margin for error. As you mentioned, they have the Lions, then they're playing the Ravens. Maybe Lamar's back at that point. Then you have a string of division games in Chicago and Green Bay, and then it's the Sam Darnold Bowl because they play the Seahawks. So this is some tough sledding ahead of them. And if it's going to be with J.J. McCarthy, not only does he have to be healthy, but he has to hit the ground running. There can be no sort of young quarterback growing pains because there's no margin for that to happen, at least if you're trying to take this season and turn it around and make a playoff push.
And if it is JJ, he would be making his first start back in the state where he won a national championship in Michigan as they play Detroit this week in the Motor City. Ryan Wilson with us here reacting to the news that Carson Wentz is out for the season. The biggest game of the weekend is on CBS. It's Chiefs and Bills. And the NFL Today crew on the road in Buffalo for that one. Also going to be on the road in Denver for that Chiefs-Broncos game in Week 11. A couple weeks down the road, that could very well be for potentially a division championship, the way those teams are playing at the top of that division with Denver on top at 6-2.